So the US dollar is getting too strong at the moment and it is destroying the crypto market and the stock market. So in this video, let's look at the dollar index to see what is likely to happen in the near term and also in the long term. But before doing that, welcome to the channel. My name is Seth and I cover the crypto market and the stock market. So if you are enjoying the content, make sure to help a brother out. Hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. Now let's jump right into it. So on the left, you have the chart for the US dollar index, and on the right, we have the chart for the S&P 500 index. The US dollar index is currently trending upwards, while the S&P 500 index is trending downwards. So this is a negative correlation, and this negative correlation can be seen between the US dollar index and gold, the US dollar index and Bitcoin, and the US dollar index versus the Nasdaq. The only asset class at the moment that I'm aware of that is also trending upwards with the US dollar index is the real estate market. But that depends on the market that you are in. But in this video, I only want to focus more on the US dollar index so we could get a good understanding of where we are likely going to be in the near future and also where we are likely going to be in the long term. So let's first start by looking at the dollar index in the long term perspective. So I am currently in the monthly chart, and in the monthly chart, we see that the dollar index has been trading in this ascending channel pattern. And this ascending channel pattern is usually a bearish pattern, right? So at some point in the future, I expect the dollar to get put back down in price, or the dollar to get weaker as we go further in time, right? But at the moment, we see that the dollar has been very strong for the past year, right? Each candle over here represents a month. So for the past year, the dollar has been very strong. A lot of people have been fearful, and people have been selling their stocks and their cryptos and even other assets, and they've been getting back into cash, right? So the dollar is getting very strong. And so there's a high possibility that the dollar could even break above this resistance line over here. We could break above this resistance line, this trend line that is acting as resistance. We could break above that resistance line and we could even trade higher, right? We could see the dollar getting even stronger from here because of people selling their stocks and cryptos and even other assets and getting back into cash. And that will probably push the dollar even higher from here, right? In case we push higher from here, I expect to see some resistance. Let me zoom out so we could see some past history. So when I zoom out, we see that we could get some resistance around the 106 level. So over here at the 106, we could get some resistance when the dollar hits 106. And then we could get some resistance also when we hit 120 over here, right? So around if we break above 106, then we will get some resistance when we hit 120. But let's look at some technical indicators to see the likelihood of us breaking higher past at 104 at the moment, right? So let's look at some technical indicators. Let's look at the RSI. Let me clean up and then let me bring up the RSI. All right, so with the RSI up, we can see that the RSI is currently overbought. The RSI is currently at around 71. We are currently at 71, which shows we are overbought, but it's also possible that we could continue higher, right? From past history, we see that the RSI has traded above 80 at some point in the past. And also over here, we see the same thing. We traded above 80 also as well, right? So there's a good chance that the dollar could even push higher in case people keep selling their stocks, cryptos, and other assets and getting back into cash. Then the dollar could even push higher, right? Let's look at the squeeze momentum as well, the momentum indicators. So looking at the momentum indicators, when we look at the squeeze momentum, we see that there's a lot of buy momentum at the moment, right? The buy momentum is very strong at the moment for the dollar. So we are not yet seeing any signs of this momentum peaking just yet, right? We are not yet rounding off just yet. Over here, when we peaked, then the dollar started getting weak and then the dollar started selling off, right? People started moving their money from cash and buying other assets with it, right? But at the moment, we are not getting that, right? We are seeing a lot of people selling their other assets and buying cash, right? So cash is getting bought a lot at the moment, or the US dollar is getting bought at the moment. Either probably by other countries. Other countries are also probably buying the dollar as well. So the dollar is very strong at the moment, right? So there's a good chance that we could continue pushing higher from here. The dollar could continue getting stronger until maybe somewhere close to the end of the year, where we will probably see a lot of people pulling their money out of cash and buying stocks and cryptos with it, right? But now let's focus more on the near term and let's look at what is likely to happen in the near future. Now let's look at the dollar index from a near term perspective. So I'm currently in the daily time frame, and from the daily time frame, we see that the dollar index is currently trading in this broadening ascending wedge pattern. And this broadening ascending wedge pattern is usually a bearish pattern. So at some point in the future, I expect the dollar to break below this trend line over here, which is acting as support, and then come back down in price, right? The last time we had a pullback, we see that the dollar index pulled back to the trend line. It got some support and then it bounced, right? So for this upcoming week, if the dollar does not see a little bit of a resistance, right? I'm expecting some resistance when the dollar hits 105. So around 105 over here, right? This resistance line, which is around 105, I expect the dollar, after we hit 105, I expect the dollar to get a pullback, right? Back to the resistance line, back to the support line. And in case the stock market continues to sell off, then I expect a bounce, right? But if the stock market gets a good bounce and the stock market continues higher, then the dollar could break out of this pattern and come back down in price. But let's look at some technical indicators to see the direction that the DXY or the dollar index will move for this upcoming week. So let's look at the RSI. Looking at the RSI, we see that the RSI is around 66, which is not showing that is overbought. But when we look at some past history, we see that around 68, right? We see that we could get a pullback around 68 on the RSI. So maybe when the dollar hits around 105 on the DXY on the chart, so when the dollar hits 105, then we'll probably get a pullback, and then we'll probably push higher if the stock market continues to sell off, right? Let's look at some momentum indicators. Let's look at the MACD. So with the MACD up, we see that the MACD line, the blue line over here, is above the signal line, right? And this is showing that the dollar is getting ready for getting ready to rally, right? There's a good amount of buy momentum coming into the market for the dollar. People are selling their stocks, cryptos, and other assets, and they are getting back into cash. And this is making the dollar stronger. Let's look at the squeeze momentum as well to confirm. So let me bring out the squeeze momentum. And the squeeze momentum is also confirming that, right? We are seeing that the sell momentum is decreasing. The sell momentum is decreasing at the moment, and we could see a little bit of a rally for the dollar for this upcoming week. That is if the stock market continues to sell off. If the stock market continues to sell off, then the dollar will get stronger. All right. This upcoming week, we also have the Feds also coming up with some news about the rate hikes, the interest rate hikes. So in case the Feds come out with bad news, then the stock market will continue to fall, and we could see more sell-off in the stock market and the crypto market. But if we get some good news, then the dollar will probably get weaker, and we could see a pullback for the dollar, and the dollar will probably break out of the pattern. But that is something you want to watch out for this upcoming week. If the Feds come out with good news, then we could see a pullback. But if they come up with bad news, then the dollar will get stronger, and we could see some new highs. But now make sure to help a brother out. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.